Each week, the teaching pastors of CityRise Church gather to discuss the theology, history, and key points of the scripture focus for the upcoming sermon. We hope sharing these discussions with you will help you go deeper in the Word as our leaders process together what God wants to communicate to our church family. Check out cityrise.org/live to enjoy the upcoming sermon live stream or to watch any of our most recent messages. If you find this resource helpful to you, please like and share this sermon conversation.
We are in Exodus 5, looking at the chapter of Exodus 5. Moses, we've been walking through, can you still experience God? We looked at God's pursuit of us from out of a love relationship, his invitation to join him. He speaks to us. We had this crisis of belief. I think last week we made some adjustments, right, to go with God. You're going to adjust our lives. And then we're at this pivotal moment where he says, okay, I'm going to be obedient. I'm going to go. God's given me this directive. I'm going to be faithful. He steps out. Moses and Aaron go before Pharaoh, and they say, okay, God has told us to tell you to let my people go. And Pharaoh responds, who is this God? Why should I believe him? No, I'm not going to let your people. In fact, I'm not only not going to let them go, I'm going to increase the work on them and make them have to work harder because you have made that request. And then there's this moment of, but God told me to tell you that. And there, I think it's so true of, at least for me personally. Isn't that so true in all of our lives? Like I'm trying to live for God, and it's not easy. God, what's going on? Right. And then, they come back and he reiterates God's desire for the Israelites to go free. He not only now does he increase their labor, he actually tells the guys over them to be harder on them, to punish them more, to actually beat them more. And it brings them, and they actually come to Moses and Aaron and go, why have you done this? Yeah. And it's a great verse because he goes, you made a stink to Moses. And he's revenging, putting his revenge on us, or his whatever. And then at kind of the end of the chapter, which again, I love, Moses just goes real to God and goes, why did you call me to me to do this? I've made it worse for the very people that you called me to lead. And why would you do that? Yeah. I think that's a moment, at least for me in ministry, that we all can relate to, right? For sure. Yeah. I'm doing something good out of my call, believing God has called me to go do that. And not everybody agreed with me. What's up with that? Why aren't they agreeing with me? I'm coming on behalf of God, and they're telling me I'm wrong or whatever. And I think that's a very relatable outcome, that obedience is always going to be met with that resistance. There's always going to be, I think about it from a discipleship perspective, as we walk through, we talk about there's always two kingdoms in conflict, right? There's the heavenly and the worldly, and they're always stand in opposition. And we operate in this worldly, but we come from a heavenly perspective, and yet we seem surprised that the world doesn't go with us, doesn't agree with us, stands opposed to us. And I think that's what you're seeing here in the scriptures with Moses and Aaron and God. And as they stand in front of Pharaoh, who's going, I don't know your God. Therefore, I'm not listening to you. And that's the world we live in, right? Yeah. There's a large part of it, at least. Yeah. So looking at it from a standpoint of just even in our obedience, we're going to face this opposition, and that opposition we're going to have to endure because God's plan's not changing because we faced opposition.
Yeah. It doesn't mean, I don't know about you guys, but a lot of times there's this misconception from ourselves that thinks, oh, okay, I've listened, I've heard, I've launched out. Everything's going to fall into line because God's going to honor my faith.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And I believe that's true. He will honor our faith, but we have this preconceived notion of what that's going to look like. Yeah. And oftentimes that's just not the way that it goes in reality. Yes. Does that happen to you guys?
Yes. For sure. Yes.
You just stepped out in faith, adopted, AJ, and it's amazing. But I'm sure along the way, it's been like, not everything's fallen into line like you thought it should.
No, for sure.
You know?
I would have to imagine in that process, multiple times you and Sydney had to think, okay, God, why is it so hard?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right? Why is
we said yes.
We said yes. We're doing what you put on our heart to do. Why is it so hard?
Yeah. Where's the money? Where's the connections? Where's the timing?
Yeah.
Whatever, I guess.
Absolutely. And that's just what it means to be human. You know, I got so much grace for Moses in this situation, because we obviously have the whole picture, and it's so easy to be like, you know, Moses, just keep going, dude. Like God told you, just like trust him, you know, and because we know, you know, chapter 6, God promises deliverance and continues to do the work that he promised. But in the moment, it is so challenging. And when you put yourself in Moses' shoes, he doesn't know that. I mean, he's just living the experience. And when your own people come to you and be like, dude, stop. Like you're making it worse for us. That gets really confusing. I'm just trying to honor God. Yeah. I'm just trying to obey him. But then I'm not only getting opposition from the enemy that God's trying to take out, I'm getting opposition from my own people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that probably triggered an immediate fear that he had previously of, they're not going to believe me. They're not going to believe me.
Yep.
And he just had this beautiful worshipful moment where the people believed and they worshiped, and that had been a high, and then boom, right back down to rock bottom. And I think of like the gospel of, you know, when the transfiguration of Jesus and this beautiful mountaintop experience where those that were there were like, hey, Jesus, can we camp out here? Like, this is awesome. We just want to stay here. And they go back down the mountain, and they're immediately met with opposition. They're immediately met with a demon possessed person. And that's just the reality
that they can't fix.
That they can't. Yeah. The other disciples were struggling to And so it's just, it's fascinating, the reality of just life and the ups and the downs and the beautiful mountaintop experiences, but then the valleys that seem to always follow.
Yeah.
And the faith and the perseverance that builds is beautiful, but in the moment it's so
difficult.
Hard.
Especially when people that are close to you are being impacted.
Yeah.
Like I remember when we moved from Tampa to Connecticut, we felt like God was leading us up there. We prayed, we were scared. We went anyway. We uprooted our family, you know, from relationships, from friends, all the things. Well, Emma's in 4th grade, my oldest. She's in the 4th grade. And she went to a school that was completely different than her school in Florida, right? And I remember like dropping her off at school every day. We had a minivan at the time. Shout out to the minivan. And we'd open the door, and we would literally have to push her out of the door every morning for probably the first semester. And she would be crying heading into school. We'd shut the door. I'd head back, or Sonia would, depending on who was carrying her to school. And we would just feel defeated, man, just deflated, because it's kind of like, did we not hear you, God? Did we not like follow what you were leading us here to do? And now my kid is literally experiencing for her just devastation. And did we do the right thing?
Yeah.
You know, and she got over it. And then when we moved to Texas, she didn't want to leave Connecticut. So, I mean, she got over it. But for that period of time, guys,
it's hard.
I'm telling you, it ripped my heart out as a dad, you know?
I love that. The point Tim was making, because I go back to chapter 3 when God says, I want you to go and free my people. And he's like, who am I that I should go do this? Right. But you remember that God said, I want to rescue them. Plan hasn't changed, but you gotta think in that moment, kind of like what you're describing. Immediately he had to have this moment of, okay, who am I? Right. This isn't working out. Maybe God called the wrong guy. Maybe I don't have this stuff. Maybe
I'm doing it wrong.
I did it wrong. I you know, I'm not obedient enough. I got to do more or something. In that moment, there is that sense of questioning and, you know, reevaluating everything, because I don't know about you, but I'm what we were talking about earlier. I think oftentimes we look at it and we go, okay, God's called me. I know the plan. I want to see the steps along the way to validate and affirm I'm doing it right.
Yeah.
And he didn't always give us those.
Boy, that's hard. God.
Yeah, he literally prays, towards the end of chapter 5, why did you ever send me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just the brokenness that he's communicating in this moment of feeling like God didn't deliver on his promise, and the confusion that he had to be experiencing. And that's leadership. I mean, you're bold in front of people, and then you're just broken in front of God, just trying to figure it out. And that's hard. That is so hard to go from bold in front of leading others and leading these people to trust God's word and to God communicated this. He's going to deliver on his promise, when people, like you said, are being extremely affected and suffering by it.
Yeah.
How do you look them boldly in the face and communicate that it's because he just continued to be honest and broken and in the presence of God? And those moments are what gives you strength to kind of keep going, because we're not going to chapter 6 this week, but knowing the full story, right? God continues to show up and
it does make me feel sometimes a little better when I see his brutal honesty.
Yeah.
He just goes, Lord, why have you done evil to these people?
Yeah.
Well, the Lord didn't do evil.
Yeah.
But you see his perspective and his honesty.
Yeah.
Why would you send me? Why would you do evil? Why would you allow this to happen? And I think that speaks into a little bit of what made Moses' character, why God used Moses, right?
Yeah.
For sure.
It is because he was honest and open and broken, and it was in his weakness that God did his greatest work. And sometimes I think that's where we are, that we need to see it. Because I think, I'll speak personally, when I get a lot of opposition, oftentimes I'll go, well, I must be wrong.
Yeah.
This must not be
I'm out of God's will.
I'm outside
or what have
of
you
God's
heard
will.
Right.
I heard his call wrong. I misinterpreted it. I did something. I'm out of step. And so I pull back. But in this passage, sometimes opposition is the affirmation that you're in God's will.
That's really,
and
really
we have to be willing to accept that hey, sometimes it's, people are going to oppose me.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're going to question my call. Sometimes they're going to question my leadership.
Isn't that how we really start to believe what we believe?
Yeah.
Is by, people questioning us, and it allows us to, again, go backwards to another crisis of belief moment and go, all right, this isn't how I'm turning. It's not how I've expected it to turn out. What do I really believe?
Yeah.
Do I really believe God's going to come through? Do I really believe life's just gotten a lot harder? Do I still believe? It's that continual process of crisis of belief.
Yeah. We talk about there's always a belief, an action, and an outcome, right? Mm-hmm. And the belief, so I'll use, I think I've used this in here before, but if you use the 23rd Psalms, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. If I really believe he's the good shepherd, then I have to believe I'm a sheep. My role or my action is to follow him. If I will follow him, he has given me a promise, I'll have no wants. If you take the Hebrew translated, it's actually no fear, no stress, no anxiety. So in those areas where I have stress and anxiety, I'm not really trusting him to shepherd me. I'm shepherding myself. And I think you have that in this moment of, if I could do it on my own and make it turn out the way I want it and everything worked perfectly, God's probably not in it. Because I'm doing it out of my own ability, my own way, my own talents, my own giftedness. If God's in it, it's going to go through opposition. It's going to be difficult. It's going to be hard, but sometimes that's the affirmation that we're doing it right.
Yeah,
for sure.
And as we walk with it, I think it's a twofold thing. I think it sharpens our faith, grows us exponentially in what we believe and know and experience to be true. But then the outcome is that people have to go, okay, God must be in it, because I didn't think it was going to work. I was opposed, and it did.
Yeah.
Right.
For sure.
And like Tim was saying, we know the rest of the story. So you know that there's some point the Israelites are going to look back and go, God delivered us from Pharaoh, right? Now they whine later in the
for sure.
wilderness, and they got their own problems.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
they saw God move,
Yeah.
and they knew it had to be God.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I think what you said was just really good, because I believe one of the, in our modern day context, especially in the West and Western church, American church, comfort seems to be kind of the enemy of the day. But comfort is comfort. I mean, it's nice. We all love being comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And so the reality of, man, if life is easy, you're probably doing something wrong is that's a hard reality to kind of live in, because no one wants things to go the wrong way. No one likes opposition.
Yeah.
But when you understand that we are in the midst of a battle, right? And in the midst of a war, and we like to think of God as shepherd, of course, but he's also a mighty warrior, and we're fighting a battle. And of course you're going to have opposition.
Yeah.
And, and so we got to fight against that a lot, to not think that, following Jesus is just all rainbows and butterflies, and he provides and he cares for us. And it's, my morning coffee with Jesus, and it's comfortable. And of course, like, that's beautiful, but it's meant to, put on the armor of God and go out and fight the battles that we face, and battles are opposition. And we have to know that.
And I think you see that through Jesus's ministry. He pulled back, he went alone, and he prayed. Mm-hmm. But then he turned right around. He went right back into the opposition of people, the Pharisees, and he went right back into it.
Yeah.
And then he pulled away. It was kind of a rhythm of, there are those quiet moments of peace and contemplation, but there's also war. Mm-hmm. And we today, on the backside of this story, we got the knowledge of knowing, but we've already been victorious, right? We fight differently because
from victory.
From victory. Jesus has secured that for us.
Yeah.
At the same time, I think that's part of what God was teaching and showing Moses and Aaron and the Israelites is, I'm redeeming my people. That's my plan. And it is done. Mm-hmm. It's not a question of whether I'm going to fulfill it or not. Mm. It's done. I'm just asking you to walk with me in that process.
Like those small, maybe not even small here, but those consistent steps of faith.
Yeah.
Like just one foot in front of the other. That's all we can do.
Yeah.
Are those little steps that may seem little, that may be big, whatever, but it's like, it's not just one step of faith. It's just continuing to walk with him.
But wouldn't we prefer that he just show us the end result first?
What's funny though is that he communicates it to Moses.
He does.
He literally said, "Hey, Pharaoh's going to say no."
Yeah, like he did.
Well, it's easy to. I think that's huge because it's easy for us. I know I do it. I assume you guys do too. I don't know. Maybe you're better than me, but we forget the sovereignty of God. Yeah. So, or we choose to not lean into it. Whether we forget it or we just are like looking at the opposition instead of looking at God. And his vastness, right? Like,
and even after they get delivered,
good Lord,
they still complain, like you said. It's
right.
It's just our human nature, our finite brains. We can't comprehend the entire story of God and his infinite wisdom and what he's doing and his sovereignty. And then when things get hard, we just start complaining. And I think that's something that we all need to really check and evaluate our own selves. Especially with these people that go to Moses and say, "Hey, the Lord look on you and judge because you have made a stink in the side of Pharaoh and his servants and have put the sword of their hand to kill us." Man, they are complaining about God's will and they're criticizing the leader. And how often can we get caught up in that?
Yeah, absolutely.
And of course, if it's, if there's no moral issue, then we need to be a lot more favorable and kind of take a step back to not be so quick to complain about what is happening in front of us and to not be so quick to criticize the leader that God has called to lead. Obviously, if there's moral issues, speak up. But if there's no moral issue here, he's just doing what God's called him to do. And because it is creating opposition in your life, I'm going to complain about what God is doing, and I'm going to criticize you as the leader. We got to be very careful to not do that.
And you see that throughout the whole history of the Israelites, right? Would we not be better eating the scraps in slavery than we are out here starving in the desert?
Crazy.
Let's go back.
Yeah. Let me go back to predictable.
How crazy is that? Let's go back
certain.
to what we perceived, at least, as comfortable.
Yeah.
It's more comfortable than what we are. I think that's really good. I think that's a powerful thing. And I think also, too, we have to continually keep, as Moses did, I think it's important for us to keep going back to God and going, okay, I'm trying to walk in obedience.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to step out in faith. I'm trying to, and I think Blackaby talks about it in his book. He talks about there's a difference between belief and trust.
Mm-hmm.
I think he uses the illustration of we've all heard it, right? The tightrope. The guy puts a wheelbarrow on it, and goes back and forth across multiple times. And then he says, do you believe I can do it? Yeah, I believe you can do it. He says, great, get in the wheelbarrow. Yeah. And then they're like, no. You believe he could do it, but you don't trust him enough to get in the wheelbarrow. It's kind of the same. And I think that's where we meet. Opposition is often that times of, okay, you believe in me. You believe in what I said I would do. You believed in who I am. You believe, but do you trust me?
Yeah.
Do you trust me enough to get in and take that first step?
Yeah.
Because what's on the other side of that canyon, that chasm, is something worth experiencing, but we got to walk through the
That's
faith.
Good. Another thing I see here that just really pops out is a continuing conversation Moses has with God.
Mm.
Like, there's permission to question.
Oh, for sure.
There's a back and forth that he has had for a while, and he steps forward in obedience after even pushing back against God and making all the excuses and stuff. And now here he is, just talking to God like he'd talk to anybody else, Like, I love that.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you're in the middle of opposition, we need to continue to talk to him.
Absolutely.
Even if it is maybe complaining, even if it is maybe having hard questions or disbelief or whatever, God's not striking him dead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He's having mercy and patience, allowing him to get to the end of himself so that he does turn to God with these questions. I think that's a big point here.
Yeah, and we're at a chapter break, but chapter 6 is God answering his prayers, and meeting with him.
Exactly.
In his love and his mercy. And that's what he does.
Yeah.
And I think it's important that he takes it to God.
Yep.
He doesn't go to Aaron and go, okay, we've messed up and God's put us out here and things are bad. And he goes to God and says, why did you ever call me in the first place? And why did you ever get me to go here? This is bad. And I think that's because, Tim had said it earlier, but, boy, I'm quick to jump in with the complainers and go, okay, yeah, this is hard.
Mm-hmm.
This is difficult, but it's easy to complain. It's much more difficult to stay faithful and walk, even when it seems or appears or feels like it's not going well.
Yeah.
To keep going forward.
I think about the disciples out in the middle of the lake when the storm kicks up, right? Jesus is asleep. They're getting soaking wet. Boat's about to be flooded over, right? And they're freaking out and they run to Jesus. And, it's kind of the same thing. They run to him in their moment of fear. It was Jesus's idea for them to get in the boat to go to the other side of the lake. They're just simply following him.
Yeah.
They've done nothing wrong.
And their honesty is awesome. Do you not even care about us?
Do you not even care about us? So they get, I think God leads us to places where we ask these difficult questions.
Yeah.
So that he can answer them.
Yeah.
And show us some things that we wouldn't have shown us otherwise.
I think it ties it back to, why does God call us in the first place? He didn't need Moses to deliver the people. He desired relationship with Moses and his people. Mm-hmm. And so he wanted them to walk through that experience together to see his grace, his love, his mercy in the process. If we were comfortable and it was easy, I don't think we would see that. We wouldn't go to him broken and
Yeah.
recognize our weaknesses and submit ourselves to his authority and all the different things, we would just accomplish a task.
Yeah.
And the relationship to him, I think, is more important than the task. The task he's going to achieve with or without us.
Yeah.
The fact he's called us ought to speak into the relational love that he has for us, the depth he wants to increase our knowledge of him. Chris taught at our men's Bible study this morning, and one of his first points was that Jesus has a relationship with us. We think about it in terms of our relationship with him, but that he knows us as well as we know ourselves and loves us despite what we know about ourselves, right? And I think that's kind of what God is doing through Moses is, yeah, it's going to be difficult, but that's when you're going to see my greatest mercy, care, love, strength, power, all that's going to be revealed.
That's where you grow.
That's
For
where
sure.
you grow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, like a modern day example I usually give our students, just in the theme of opposition and receiving opposition, and that being truly, you're most likely in the will of God if you are receiving opposition is in basketball, right? Like if there's an offensive player that's really good, coaches send two. Like you're going to double that guy. You're not going to let him catch the ball. You're going to get in his face. You're going to make it hard on him because he's a threat to beat us, And so, but that kid, leave him open, right? If if he's in the corner, you can leave, don't even try to defend him. Leave your man to go defend that guy. And, that communicates because of the threat that this person may be. And that's how the enemy probably looks at strong leaders and strong believers that are living in the will of God of like, hey, we gotta put a stop to that. We gotta double team that guy.
We gotta double team the faithful.
We gotta make life hard for him. Because he's a threat. And he's doing the Lord's work. And that's against what we want. And that's the hardship and the beauty of, it reminds me of James 1, right? How can believers have joy in trials, right? That's crazy. That's insane. No one has joy in trials. Well, James communicates the only way you can have joy in trials is because you know something.
Yeah.
And you know that the testing of your faith builds perseverance and it gives you wisdom. Yeah. And you're able to lead out of understanding God's sovereignty and his victory to where when trials come, you can have joy in the midst of them because I'm going to gain wisdom. Good. I'm going to gain perseverance. I'm going to grow. I'm going to get stronger. And God's with me. And, his presence means the world. And he's going to carry me through.
And there's a very real enemy that's at work against us.
Absolutely.
Right. And I always go back to, when Satan fell from heaven, took the third of the angels with him, the greatest thing they lost was intimacy with God, right? What is the greatest thing they want to prevent us from? Intimacy with God. Our intimacy grows through trials and suffering, and because it produces those things. I think the greatest, you kind of said it earlier, I think the greatest weapon of the enemy is to say, hey, don't take risks, don't step out there, stay comfortable, because then I can just leave you open. I can go work on these other guys, and I can double team them. Right. Because they're not only advancing the kingdom of God, they're going exponentially in intimacy with them. And that's the one thing I don't want them to have, right? That's the one thing I want to break, separate, sever, whatever it is. And it's only through those times of trial, suffering, or whatever, where I think we kind of your boat experience, exponentially we grow in intimacy and relationship when we're at the end of us. That's when God's going to move.
Absolutely. I think to that point, one of the most evil things that someone could do on this earth is convince one of my kids that their dad doesn't love them. And that's what the enemy does.
That's exactly it.
And that's what the enemy and opposition and is trying to convince here in this moment with Moses that, hey, your heavenly Father is not with you and he's not caring. He's not doing what he said he was going to do. And it's evil. It's what the enemy wants to accomplish.
Yeah, it's really powerful.
Yeah, which is exactly what the disciples said in the boat, right? Do you not care about us? That's the lie of the enemy. Did God really say that? He just doesn't want you to be equal with him. I mean, that's the fall of man, right? Yeah. And I think that's still the lie. He's still, his his game plan hasn't changed much.
Nope. Yeah.
He just keeps coming after that same attack.
Yeah.
It's good.
That is good.
It's good.
Has there been I kind of shared my Connecticut story. Has there been a place in your life, a situation where you guys have kind of been where Moses is here? Probably multiple times, but just to go, okay, wow, I didn't know it would be this hard, or my expectations didn't meet what I thought here. And now I'm asking a lot of questions.
Yeah, for me, so I wasn't what I call career Christian. I didn't come out of college with the belief that I was going into ministry. It took me 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
Wrestled with God through the majority of those 6 years, really hard for the last year and a half before I finally surrendered to the call of full-time vocational ministry. And God did amazing things. I see his hand all through it. But when I got hired to go on staff at a full-time vocationally at a church as a youth pastor, I took the job, went on the staff, and was very excited that, man, God had opened up this incredible opportunity to go to this huge church, to be involved in a huge student ministry. And then within months, I was like, this is hard.
What did I do?
This is way harder than the job I had before was easier. It was a sales job. It was easier. I was good at it. I made a lot of money. And now I'm making no money. It's hard. And I'm working twice as long hours and twice as hard doing ministry.
Yeah.
And it was, and you think, I don't know if you guys had this experience, because I think both of y'all went right out of college and went right into ministry, right? Mm-hmm. But for me, having been a church member for all those years and then surrendering into ministry, I thought you'd come on to a staff and we'd just sit around and read the Bible and sing Kumbaya and pray with each other all the time. Like there's going to be this great, and then you get on there, a staff, and it's
work.
It's still work. It's just like any other job.
That's
there's still
funny.
Expectations. There's still bosses, and there's still managing, and there's still people involved, and it's still hard. And so that was a kind of that moment of, if I was brutally honest, there was probably in those first, 6 months, maybe the first year, where there was many times where I went to God and said, did I misunderstand you? I thought you wanted me to go do this.
Right.
And I don't feel like it's really working out.
Yeah.
Like it's hard.
That's true.
And I was at a big church, and immediately they had big expectations on performance.
Yeah.
Your ability to turn the ministry around, to build it, grow it. And man, I felt like every turn I was messing up. And I had not gone to seminary, had not been on a previous church staff. So I was making it up. I didn't know what I was doing.
Right.
And so I just felt like everything I was doing was wrong. And
that's fun. I get that. What about you?
But it worked out.
Yeah, a few moments come to mind. I think the most, like in this moment, Moses goes to the Lord and he's broken. He's got questions. He's trying to figure things out. I think when Sydney, my wife's water broke with Jonah, and we went to the hospital and we were communicated just some really like heartbreaking news on the reality of the probability of what we were stepping into. I remember being strong and bold in front of Sydney, but then stepping away like Moses is doing, and then just being broken before God and being like,
and for those that don't know the story, she was
27
weeks.
No, it was earlier than that. It's funny how time goes. This is why people forget, right? People are forgetful, but I think it was 21 to 23 weeks. It was somewhere in there. I can't remember confidently, but it was early. And Jonah was less than a pound. Like he was.
She was how many days in the hospital?
So, I mean, it's a victory story. And so, God delivered us, and I always have a hard time understanding why, because we were in a floor full of women with similar situations, and, not all were victory stories. And your heart breaks for those families and those people, while also, celebrating Jonah's story. And that's really the tension there is unique and hard, but just the moment of, being bold to Sid, being bold in prayer, and fighting for her, being heartbroken that she had to endure that. She was forced to lay horizontal in a bed, because if she stood up, right, gravity is not in our favor right now with the reality of the labor that her body is going through and how small Jonah was and just the situation she was in. So she was forced to sacrificially lay horizontal in a bed for a really, really, really long time. So I was heartbroken for her. I was heartbroken about the reality of the probability of our son most likely not making it, and asking God why, right? Why would you let that happen, right? But then, of course, the victory story that it turned into is a beautiful thing that we can always look back on. And, Jonah's 6 now and running around and driving me crazy.
He's a stud.
And there's moments where I'm like, God, what's wrong with this child? But I remember the deliverance, and I have new perspective and new love and new joy for him. But, it's just, anytime you endure something hard, you're going to always ask why.
Yeah.
And, I have so much grace for the stories that don't end in victory and their faith still understanding God's love and care for them. And so it's just a faith builder, no matter the outcome, to truly trust God's plan and will and the people that we met in the hospital. And I think of a pastor, his name is Levi Lusko, who lost one of his young children, I think a few days before Christmas. And he writes about the story and the faith that his wife and him experienced. And then he invited the whole nurse floor to come to their Christmas Eve service, and to see the whole hospital show up was just like, that's why, God worked in this mysterious way. And so it's just like that faith and that perspective is so bold. And I'm in all of those type of stories, and I wish I could be stronger in those moments. But anyways, there's just lots of unique moments to pull from, in which in this moment to look back on and say, oh, that's what God was up to. Oh, that's what God was doing. But in the moment, you're like, what on earth are you doing, God?
Totally.
Where are you? Show up.
I think that's so important as we're leading our people who are experiencing opposition because of their faith. Maybe it's people hate you because you follow Jesus, or you say this and then they whatever, or it's just other things. But if you're experiencing opposition because of obedience, it's okay to ask questions of God. It's okay to dialogue with him, to ask him the hard things, to go there. You're not doing anything wrong. That was my whole heart, but about crafting this particular message in this series is yes, go to God, because this stuff's going to happen. Yeah. And you're not out of bounds, and the Lord's not looking at you like, how dare you question me?
Yeah.
Or, this is okay. Moses does it right.
Yeah. And pain is always part of the process.
It is.
I think about it, and I've shared this illustration before, but you come out of high school, and I thought I understood what it was to work out, like to lift weights. And so I looked like a football player. And then you go to college and they introduce you to a whole nother level of resistance training.
Yeah.
And their whole point is, we're going to break you down to build you back up. You're stronger. Yeah. Right. There's a lot of pain and a lot of struggle, but you believing in the long-term outcome.
Yeah.
I think that's how it is spiritually. Sometimes we got to face these things, and they're painful.
Yeah.
But he's breaking us down to really make us better, stronger.
Yeah.
And really to deepen our faith and our relationship.
That's good.
Him. And so that pain has to be a part of the process.
I love that.
Because I think without the pain, we don't ever get to that place of desperation to actually get honest and real.
Yeah.
It's good. And when we get honest and real, then we can see God move and do those things. So,
well, you're the only one preaching this week. I can't wait to hear your message. It's gonna be
I don't know how that worked out, but I am preaching this Sunday, Bel Air, 9:30 and 11. Come join us. And who's at West U?
I think Roger's up.
I don't know. You're not preaching? Roger's at West U.
I think so.
8:30 and 11. So, what else we need to talk about? Is that it?
That's it. I think we're good.
All right.
See ya.
See ya.